Welcome to Tech Talk, which is the intersection of advertising and technology for Exchange for Media. And today we're so lucky to have with us Nitin Khanna. Nitin is the VP of Marketing for Acko, which you know from their viral digital ads to their presence across all forms of social media, and how they sort of are trying to educate us on why it's so important to have insurance and sort of take care of our financial legacy. So thank you so much, Nitin, for joining us.
So thank you, Shantanu, and thank you to the E4M team for having me as a part of this series that you guys are doing. I think excited to talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing and look forward to this conversation.
Yes. And so, I'll jump straight in. And, Acko has already built a reputation for digital-first creative. And so how do you approach designing campaigns which are native to platforms like YouTube and Google Search, rather than, just taking your TVCs and sort of repurposing them? So could you explain how creative was tailored for these different customer journeys on these platforms?
Yeah, sure. I think that's an interesting question. How we go about it is, we look at it in two ways. While a lot of the stuff that we make from a creative lens for these digital platforms, I think the attempt is A, to be true to the platform, and B, to be true to the cohort of customers that we are chasing, right? While there's a lot of personalization that happens there, sometimes the personalization might not be like one-to-one, but it's at least true for like a cohort of people that we are targeting. However, what we do also try to ensure is that there is continuity in terms of whatever we are doing above the line. So for example, be it with some of the brand assets that we own in terms of our brand ambassadors, etc. So I think the continuity of what's happening above the line definitely follows through in terms of what we are making on digital native platforms as well. However, specific to your question, as we are looking to shape some of these campaigns on platforms like YouTube, connected TVs, etc. I think two things work for our advantage at Acko. One is because of the business model itself, we own the relationship with the customer. Now, what that means is, as a D2C brand, there is a direct access to the customer. What happens with most of the other players in the insurance industry is that because a lot of the transaction happens and a lot of the relationship happens through an intermediary in between, which could be a broker, which could be an agent, etc. The primary relationship, and data for the customer, the nuances about the customer are mostly, held by that middle layer. It's not passed back to the insurer, right? Which is where inherently, because of our D2C model, we are at an advantage, and that lends itself beautifully in terms of flowing into some of the campaigns that we look to set up on digitally native platforms like YouTube. Right now, one example that worked for us beautifully well was when we were looking to so because of a lot of the first party data which we had access to, I think what we were able to do was we were able to segment our users into meaningful cohorts. Now, on one hand, that could mean that there is, for example, a car owner who has come to our website in the past, but maybe has not converted and bought a policy. But again, because we own the customer data, we know when he's going to be in market again to purchase his car insurance, right? So I think that's one very powerful cohort that we chase. Second is, I think, from a cross-sell perspective that we do, where a lot of our motor insurance products are the entry points for consumers. So for example, somebody might enter into the world of Acko through a bike insurance or a car insurance, but then eventually also ends up trying us for a health insurance product or for a life insurance product. Now the creative strategy for all of these cohorts is very different, right? For the consumer who we know is a car owner and might be looking for car insurance near about his expiry date, the kind of message that you want to do, maybe up to 30 to 60 day before he comes into that in market phase, there's a little bit of priming that happens, right? And then when the sales moment happens, I think it's a lot more, the creative messaging is basically focused a lot more in terms of getting him to convert, right? So I think we're able to, not just for the platform, but for the cohort. I think similarly for some of the cross-sell objectives that we have, knowing the fact that health insurance is a more considered purchase than maybe like a bike insurance is, I think there's a lot of creative education that we spent, not just in terms of some of the brand ads, but also in terms of how we are looking to now leverage partnership ads with creators, that can be plugged into our first party audiences. And that actually helps us with a lot of education about the category, because like it's specifically for the cross-sell objectives, it's a need that you need to create first. So how do we get people to think more about the fact that they need to buy a health insurance? So I think there we are tapping more from a full funnel creative strategy as well, where it's not just about conversion-led messaging, but there is a lot of education and need creation that we are doing, so that the users are better primed when we end up reaching out to them with something that's got our USP or something that's got our reason to buy.
Okay. And, of course, this wouldn't be tech talk if we didn't talk about artificial intelligence. And so let's just tick that off. And you mentioned first-party data. And so I'm just, curious how you're using AI and, especially tools like Google's AI tools like Performance Max and, search, and how you're sort of leveraging them with your first party data, and what's the sort of performance lift you've seen in, like, let's pick one category, say motor insurance, since you were talking about bike insurance just now.
Yeah, sure. I think happy to talk about one of those examples. So I think on the motor insurance front, I think we've been able to leverage a lot of insights from our first party data and then marry it with a lot of the AI-led intelligence that campaign types like a Performance Max or even on search is giving on the Google ecosystem right now. And sort of that has led us to run these campaigns on supercharged boosters that has helped us with our conversion objectives. Right. So, I'll just speak about one part of it, where how does first party flow into some of the intelligence that we are building. I think we use our first party data actively to pass more signals onto the Google ecosystem, so that the campaign is able to optimize much better. Now, this is done at every stage of the funnel. Right now, for example, somebody who is depending on obviously what the campaign type is, if whether it is like a top of the funnel objective or we are looking more for like a bottom of the funnel objective, we choose different cohorts and the attributes of those of the first party data cohorts to feed this AI optimization engine that PMax or search is now offering to us. The second part also is that in terms of deciding some of the creative themes that are flowing for each of these campaign types, I think that's also where we use some of our internal learnings to train the AI model that's running on these campaign types to be able to deliver the right kind of messages to those cohorts. Like, for example, when I was talking about some of the signals that we are able to pass through, there's a lot of intelligence that comes in terms of even within a city, there are certain pin codes work for us much better, right? So that sort of intelligence gets passed back to the AI optimization engine, the booker data that we have, right? Which is, who is more likely to buy from us, right? What sort of like specifically for health insurance, like what sort of families are more likely to buy for us, right? So there's a
Right.
lot of first party data
Mhm.
enrichment that
Right.
we've been able to use to
Mhm.
pass back as signals to the
Right.
AI optimization engines that are inherently a part of these campaign types. But what
Mhm.
it has definitely helped us is uh, I think a couple of campaigns that we've piloted in the past, we've seen anywhere between like a 20 to 30% uplift, which
Oh,
for some of the mature categories like like a car insurance is extremely healthy because we operate at a fairly decent scale uh, in most of
right.
our target markets, right? And on the health side also, I think we've used some of that, and maybe we can talk about that example subsequently
Right.
during the conversation.
Yeah. And you mentioned that how you're sort of leveraging these platforms, and you have sort of set a benchmark because the way you guys use YouTube and search, and basically these digital products, has really sort of helped inform the narrative. So, if you had to give, like a TED talk or like a short object lesson to other marketers, what they can learn from your approach, which is sort of balancing scale with personalization, and especially when it comes to high intent insurance buyers, which is quite a like a sensitive category.
Sorry, I lost you in between, Chan. Yeah. Hello.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me repeat that. So basically, you guys have sort of set the benchmark when it comes to leveraging YouTube search and all the digital channels. So, like, if you had to give like a small TED talk or an object lesson to other marketers, and what they can learn from your approach for balancing scale with personalization, and especially when it comes to like a category like insurance, which is a lot of high intent buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So I think not much of a TED talk giver, but I'll give my 2 cents in terms of some advice that I can offer to my peers who are looking at something. I think the first thing that we've at least learned is uh, don't be afraid to experiment, right? And I think specifically with partners like Google, we found like an able ally who's able to come to us fast and early in terms of anything new that is coming up.
Mhm.
Like for example, like on search for the longest time, we used to be very averse to use broad match as a technique, right? Because that
Right.
was you know purely looked at from like a bottom of the funnel goal, right? But
Right.
we've now done experiments where we've been able to couple say something which was extremely top of the funnel uh, driving instrument in terms of broad match to now being able to help us deliver mid funnel and even bottom funnel goals. Now, why this
Right.
has been possible is that because we've not been able to we've not been shy of taking some bold bets when it comes to experimentation. I think on the second front that I would also say, just carrying forward the same theme,
Mhm.
and specifically of performance marketing and digital marketing. Maybe we obsess a lot more about metrics and KPIs and the campaign types and the campaign setups, but on a
Right.
lot of occasions, marketeers don't realize the power of the creative that goes behind it as well. And I think that's where you know, we've tried to make a difference. And this is not just from our TVCs or like some of the campaigns that we've done on health, for example, with Munna and Circuit, like with Sanjay Dutt and Arshad
Mhm.
Varsi, or with
Right.
Saif
Yeah.
Sara on motor insurance, but even
Mhm.
little small pieces in terms of the ad copies that we are running on
Mhm.
our search ads. What are the creative themes that are actually giving us much better results on PMAX as a campaign type, right? So I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of power that can be unearthed with the right sequencing, with the right balance, and just adopting a very agile, highly iterative mindset when it comes to
Right.
a lot of the creative optimization that's possible. So yeah, I think just to summarize, be bold, take risks, uh, don't uh, shy away from the power that the creative can add to your performance marketing and your digital marketing mix, even if it's something as text oriented as a search ad.
Right. And it's very interesting. You mentioned, how there are different iterations you can take, and of course, video is exploding now. And not just YouTube on your phones, of course, but also CTV is becoming an increasingly key platform, especially for Acko, because you want to read like high intent premium audiences. So, could you talk about what sort of lessons you learned? Because I believe you engage with 85% of premium viewers in connected TV, and I believe you also had some AI-powered audience signals, which sort of saw you drive a 30% business lift in another campaign.
Yeah, so I think we tried this as an experiment for our health insurance category. I think what we are trying to do was, we figured out 2-3 markets in terms of our top cities that we wanted to make a concerted effort to increase the top of mind awareness and help us generate disproportionate top of the funnel for the category. We were obviously lucky because we had a great campaign at our hands with Munda and Circuit that it was massively loved across the board. But I think when we were sort of looking to take that to market with a clear objective that we want to grow 2-3 cities, I think with all the analysis that we did with our agency and with Google, I think a clear winner that sort of emerged to tap into, say, the modern day, slightly premium, affluent prospect for a health insurance product. CTV was like a straightforward answer that came to us. However, I think what we did again from a CTV perspective was that we layered the CTV with a bit of intelligence from our end. I think 2 attributes that we used. I think one was using cues in terms of the type of families that were buying our health insurance product and from which areas from within these cities they were buying our health insurance product. Right? Because again, I think the objective was not only to generate top of the funnel, but to do it meaningfully enough so that it also translates into some sales motion for the business. Right. And I think when we were able to couple, these 2, I would say, input parameters to our CTV planning, I think we saw like a bit of magic being unlocked. I think we saw, and because we were running it in specific markets, I think we were able to do like a classical test and control here as well, where these 2 markets that we went in, the lift in our brand searches, the lift in our top of the funnel queries were at least 2x to 3x higher than what we were seeing in the other markets, where obviously this CTV led approach was not being driven. Right. So I think the results were clear for us. I think we were happy in terms of the uplift that it was able to generate for us. And I think it's a model that now we are trying to also take forward in terms of some of the other campaign planning that we'll be doing for the coming year.
Nice. And, you mentioned, of course, there is sometimes this obsession with metrics, but, we do love our acronyms. But, measurement is still that missing link sometimes in digital storytelling across some platforms. So, how are you guys using tools, say, like Ads Data Hub to sort of connect those dots between campaign spend and actual conversions? And, how has that sort of influenced your internal marketing decisions?
Yeah, I think spot on. I think measurement is anyway like the buzzword with anything that comes in our world. So I think I sort of look to break it into 2 parts. I'm glad that you also brought up ADH. So I think, to be honest, we are slightly early in our journey for ADH right now. However, we are also happy that we are amongst the first in our industry to, look at the power of ADH and, how that can help us scale efficiently when it comes to our digital marketing efforts. But ADH is still early for us. We are looking to scale that up in the course of this year. However, I think a lot of measurement that we've been able to do has been on 2-3 fronts. Whenever a campaign for us is successful and is moving in the right direction, I think we've been able to see clear results in terms of brand query uplift that happens. So, for example, the health insurance instance that I was telling before, that when we went into like a few of our cities, right, we keep a close eye on, how, our brand search query lift is happening, and obviously there are brand lift studies that Google is also is able to help with us. And I think lastly, there's a lot of internal data that we use to optimize and to be able to judge, because measurement is definitely a cornerstone for any growth charter that we drive at Acko. So
Right.
whether we are getting the right kind of audiences as a result of a campaign, are we getting them from the right markets? Are we
Right.
seeing brand query growth that is happening or not? And even on the creative level, I think, I spoke about being agile and being iterative. I think there's a lot of sharp work that happens by our teams in terms of staying on top of a lot of the creative performance data. While
Right.
a part of the optimization happens on the engine because of all the the automated AI-led inputs that platforms like Google also offer. But I think there's a lot of diligence from our end in terms of staying on top of that as well.
Right.
Now, with our initiation into this entire journey with ADH, we are seeing a lot more, a lot more levers that we can pull, both on the creative side and also, how do you optimize on the right kind of reach and frequency? How do you minimize some of the wastage that is happening on digital platforms, and getting a more unified view of the same customer being exposed to instances of our advertising across different campaign types, across different campaign platforms. So, for example, the world of OTT and CTV and even audio OTTs is now being linked
Yeah.
back to,
Right.
whether the same user was also targeted with our ads in terms of
Right.
non-skip ads on YouTube, etc. So now we are getting a much richer, a much unified view of the customer that is flowing into the optimization exercise because of the measurement that we're able to drive through ADH.
Nice. And like you said, it's early days, but one of your philosophies is to be bold and experiment. So I'm sure this will be
Yeah,
another bet that
absolutely.
works out. Right. So thank
Yeah,
you so
absolutely.
much, Nitin.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And then I think I hope the ADH success is a conversation for another day that we can have.
Absolutely.
I hope to come back to you with a lot more insights in terms of how the entire ADH journey has panned out for us.
Oh, no, I don't worry. I shall be troubling you for other stories as well. So you should be hearing from me. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.